So the next episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation is called Lonely Among Us. So the gang are picking up a bunch of delegates. One of them looks like a cobra, or like the group of them, they all look like cobras. They have cobra heads. And the other group of them look like kind of a bald, like, mole person. And they are, not only are they mortal enemies, but they actually like to eat each other. So Riker spends most of the episode kind of trying to stop these guys from eating each other. And meanwhile, they're investigating a nebula. And inside the nebula, something kind of like a bolt of lightning, because they have that lightning effect they use all the time, comes through the panel of the ship, and like Worf, whose job is not security, he's just the token Klingon, I guess, so he does odd jobs. So he's doing like something with the panel, and he gets electrocuted by the panel, and he falls back, and he's like gets transported to sickbay. And while he's in sickbay, Counselor Troy's there, and Dr. Crusher's there, and she's wearing a weird helmet, and she goes like, oh, what's wrong with Worf? He's actually completely fine. But then she starts acting weird, like she's being under mind control or something, because whatever Worf had passed into her, and then she's like being mind control-ish. I think that she just she goes and sends her she goes and visits the captain, and then the captain gets controlled by this thing, and the captain is like, I am not a robot, I am actually the captain, even though he's totally like under mind control. He's like, totally not under mind control, forget all the delegation and this very important mission with this cobra and the mole person, and let's go back to that nebula, because I really want to go back to the nebula, okay? And Riker's like, Captain, you're acting bizarre. Really weird, okay? And then he starts like electrocuting everybody using the consoles, and everyone on the whole bridge is being electrocuted with that lightning effect. Ah! And finally he's like, you know what? Me and the entity, we're like bros now, and we want to be together forever. Can we please just leave the ship? And Captain Picard decides he's going to leave the ship with his entity. He feels like so at peace and wonderful since he has like the entity inside of. He's going to use the transporter to make himself into energy, and then transport himself back into the nebula. So he gets beamed into the nebula, and everybody's like, I'm so sad that Picard's never coming back again. It was like so very sad. And then Troy is like, oh no, I'm sensing Captain Picard, and he's all by himself because they couldn't connect when they were in the nebula as energy. And then he's like, okay, so how do we get him back to being Captain Picard on the ship? And they're like, I know, we'll use the transporter, but first we have to like find him, and it's hard to find him. And Captain Picard, as like a magic energy beam, comes like into the ship and like makes a P on Data's console, and they're like, there he is, because he's got a P. And so they beam him back, and he's Captain Picard again, but he doesn't remember anything about being an energy being because they used his old pattern from the pattern buffer. They do that a lot. Anyway, so Captain Picard's back. The energy being is back in the nebula. Happy. Everybody's happy. And then Tasha Yar comes into the transporter room where Riker and Picard are, and she's like, oh my gosh, one of the delegates is missing, and we're pretty sure the other delegates are, like, serving him for dinner. And they're like, and Picard and Riker kind of look at each other like, oh, the work never ends, and the happy, oh, this music is playing that says that murder was so hilarious. Boop, 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 boop. End of episode. And that is The Lonely Among Us. Bye!